Hello friends, this is Ryan Hicks of TaughtToProfit.com. Today I want to talk to you about how we eat and how it exhibits our love toward the creation, toward God, and an understanding of His compassion and love toward all beings, all of His creation. Growing up, we ate meat, we had plenty of dairy, we did not think anything about our diets, about how it affects anything. It was just, you eat. There's stuff you eat is what you're used to. You went to school, you got served milk and dairy and meat. It was just part of life. And the only people you even knew that didn't eat meat did it for some health reason, because they couldn't eat perhaps dairy, or they couldn't eat certain types of meat. It just didn't go well with their system. And so that's all you knew. You didn't really hear anything, at least in my experience, about an ethical reason for why you wouldn't want to do it. Even today, there are people who will go on vegan or vegetarian diets, but they're doing it for only health reasons, not for any kind of ethical or moral imperative. And so I didn't know anyone, even into adulthood, I didn't know anyone who was actually a vegan or vegetarian. The few people who I ever talked to who hinted toward that were mainly extolling how good it was for their health. Nothing about ethics. You'd see people, PETA on the news or something, throwing paint on someone for wearing fur. And even at that, while that behavior is not godly, I could understand that, because wearing something that's skinned alive is pretty horrific. And most people don't want to partake of that. Most people, even if they eat meat, don't like that kind of stuff and look down upon things like wearing fur just because of how it's obtained and how evil it is. It's not like it's some animal. Many people do think that the animal just somehow dies and then they take the fur off of it. That's not what happens. These animals are skinned alive most of the time, and it's brutal and horrific. So that was the limitations I knew about veganism and eating a plant-based diet, and why you wouldn't want to have animal-based products in your life. I didn't know anything about it. And then you read the Bible and you see allowances for people to eat meat in Genesis chapter 9, where Noah was allowed to, after the flood, to eat meat. But before that, there was only vegetables were the main source of food for humanity. It's what God created for humanity, even for animals. I'll go ahead and read that in Genesis chapter 1, verses 29 through 31. It says this, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat." And I'll stop right there. Meat in King James Bible, meat does not mean flesh. Like we say today, we talk about meat. We don't mean food in general. We mean meat as in the flesh of animals. Meat in the Bible could refer to the flesh of animals, but it almost always is referring just to food generically. So it is a term we use for food. So that's why it says these plants, the trees, the fruit of the tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat or for food. So understand that it's not talking about any flesh here. "And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day." So in God's ideal, in His perfect creation, humans and animals lived on plants. That was their food. That was their meat. Animals weren't eating each other. Humans weren't eating animals. That was the ideal situation from creation. And this is important to note, because why would we want to live in the results of the fall, the results of sin, live lives based on permission and not what is ideal, what is the best, what is God's standard of purity and holiness and perfection of the creation, which was eating plants for food, for your sustenance. That was the ideal. That's what God set up. Now, it didn't end there. Even after the fall, and God was very merciful and permissive in allowing people to eat meat, and they continued some of the sacrifices from Egypt on into the Jewish law. But God kept rebuking those sacrifices and saying he will have mercy and not sacrifice. That the blood of bulls and goats could not remove sin. In Isaiah 65:25 says this, "The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord." This is the ideal. This is in the future. In eternity, this will be the ideal. This is what God wants. So why wouldn't you as a Christian do everything in your power to live that ideal, that perfection, the divine preference for way things should be? Why shouldn't you try to live that now to the best of your ability? Isaiah 11 verses 6 through 9, "The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. And the sucking child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." This is so important. The earth being full of the knowledge of the Lord. What happens? Animals are at peace. Humans are at peace. They're eating vegetables. They're eating fruit. They are not harming one another. They're not eating each other's flesh. There's peace, there's grace, there's love, there's mercy throughout when the earth is full of the knowledge of the Lord. So when you stand before God, are you going to say, "Well, I didn't know any better. I didn't know what you really wanted. I knew what you permitted. I knew what you allowed the children of Israel. I knew what you allowed Noah. But I just thought I could just eat whatever I want. I didn't have to worry about the consequences of my diet. I could just do whatever I want. It didn't matter." But this is what's so important. As James 4:17 says, "Therefore to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin." And that could be anything, something that for one person is fine, but because you know to do something and you don't do it, it is sin to you. And I'm telling you this because I want you to think of yourself in a better way, have a higher standard for yourself than some brute beast. Because many people's argument is nothing more than, well, but animals eat each other. So that's your argument? That's the same argument people make for all kinds of sin. Well, our animals do this. We are held to a higher standard. We have higher ideals. We have the knowledge of the Lord. Why would we not try to live in this life the closest we can to the perfection that God requires and will institute in eternity? It was the original creation. Why wouldn't we live as close to the original creation as possible? Using sin as an excuse is nothing more than hiding behind sin to continue your own behavior. Now, I have another video, and I'll link to it, where it shows actually some of the habits in the factory farms and various farming systems, how animals are so cruelly treated. It's horrific treatment. Just because you don't see it going on doesn't give you a free pass. You are directly contributing to and paying people to do that for you when you turn a blind eye and just continue to eat meat, continue to eat dairy. And some people don't understand dairy. They think, well, what's milking a cow? How does that hurt them? The cows are not just milked. My friends, the cows are raped, basically. That's just putting it as bluntly as possible. It doesn't happen naturally. Then when they have their calves, they're ripped away from them, and then those cows are milked. Their calves are generally taken to a veal farm to be raised as veal, to be eaten eventually. the mothers are bereaved from their children immediately, and that's how you get milk. You get milk from that scenario. Now, eggs, you may say, well, what about eggs? Eggs don't matter. Nobody's hurt from eggs. Well, most of the eggs are not fertilized, so yes, in that sense, no living being is killed, but all the eggs that are fertilized, that hatch, if they're males, they literally throw them in a grinder and grind them up. And you're directly contributing to that by buying eggs at your local store. Even these cage-free chicken and cage-free eggs and all these things are still the products of cruelty. And you're directly contributing to that. I don't think most Christians think about this. I think most Christians just think it's just food. It's no different than some broccoli on their plate than to have chicken breast on their plate. They're not thinking about what happened to get that to their plate. They're not thinking about what they are directly contributing to in order to get that food. Because I think most people, if they knew diamonds they were buying were the product of slave labor, would they buy it? No. If they knew that some product they were going to buy was stolen, would they buy it? No. But yet, you turn a blind eye when it's cruelty to animals, when animals are being treated in most horrific fashions. Like I said, I'll post that video link. You can look at it if you want to. It's really awful. I mean, I would not suggest looking at it because it's just terrible. But if you're not really convinced, it's worth looking at to open your eyes some, to have a revelation of what you are directly doing by your purchases. Proverbs 12:10 says this, "A righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel." And this is very important. If you can understand what's going on, know the cruelty, know the horrific things that are going on because of meat purchases and things of this nature, and you don't care, you can just shrug it off, you can turn a blind eye to it, my friends, you got to really examine yourself to see whether you're in the faith. Because the righteous man regards the life of his beast. The righteous man has this understanding of compassion toward all humanity and toward all living beings. They don't seek to cause harm, to hurt, or destroy. But the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. The wicked don't care. They laugh about it. They treat it like it doesn't matter. No big deal. Oh, some animals abused. Chickens' heads are wrung off. Oh, it's no big deal. Who cares? They taste good. And this kind of nonsense. That's from a wicked heart, an impure heart, a cruel heart that doesn't care, doesn't have the compassion and love of God in their heart. Because God's ideal is beasts lying together, children leading what used to be ferocious beasts around, and compassion, love, gentleness, and peace being throughout all of the land. When the earth is full of the knowledge of the Lord, that is what will happen. You can't have this exist anymore. And because God's permitted things in the past, and at one time he winked at those things, but now he commandeth all men ever to repent. You have a higher standard than animals. You have a higher standard than people in the past did. To think that your religion ends 2,000 years ago and doesn't continue and grow and cause you to be a better person is ridiculous. And I want to point out that early Christians, there were numerous early Christians that refused to eat flesh. And it wasn't like today where it's every meal. Many times people only had meat once, twice a week, maybe at best. It was more of a luxury. And even in Christianity, it was forbidden by most people. It was completely understood to be something that drained you as a human being, sapped you spiritually, and was physically not good for you as well. Clement of Alexandria said this, "It is far better to be happy than to have your bodies act as graveyards for animals." Accordingly, the Apostle Matthew partook of seeds, nuts, and vegetables without flesh. The unnatural eating of flesh meats is as polluting as the heathen worship of devils, with its sacrifices and its impure feasts. Through participation in it, a man becomes a fellow eater with devils. This was the understanding, very harsh, strongly worded, But this was the understanding that eating meat, eating flesh, which was no need for it for your diet, it's not something required for you, was equal to fellowship with devils. My friends, I really want you to stop and think about this. I don't go around bashing people for what they eat. I don't do anything like that. But I want you as a Christian to think, how can you live a compassionate life of love and grace toward all creation? How can you appreciate the creation that God's granted for us to participate in and to be blessed by? In eating animals, eating His creation that has sentient life, is a sentient being that wants to exist, that has its own desires and goals, even if it's an animal and it may seem more simplistic than a human, that's cruel. And there's no way of slaughtering an animal that is not cruelty, that is not hindering your spiritual growth, that is not causing you to be weaker than you would be without that kind of mentality. And I want to tell you, for me, I was setting down eating chicken. I used to eat chicken all the time, and beef and other meats, but chicken was a staple, and I would eat it a lot. And I was sitting down one day, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm eating another being's flesh. No one had told me anything. No one had been talking to me. It was a revelation. And of course I knew that, but it was at that point, it just seemed disgusting to me. I'm eating some flesh of another animal, of another being that wanted to be alive, that didn't want to be eaten, that didn't want to be treated like this, and I'm eating it. And it became sickening, instantly sickening and disgusting to me. And I gave it up, and I gave up all meat, dairy, eggs, all kinds of products that would be from animals. Because it just hit me that I don't want to contribute. I don't want my life to be one that exists to contribute to negative things in this world, to create a problem in this world. Another thing people may not realize, because I remember when I was a kid, we were taught, oh, you got to recycle paper. If you just crumple a piece of paper that wasn't used, what are you wasting paper? You know, cut down trees for that. And it was a big deal on recycling paper. That was a big deal back then. And the reason given was the rainforest is being destroyed because of trees and paper. But the reality is, the rainforest is being destroyed and mowed down to make room for cattle to graze, and also for crops to be grown to feed cattle and chickens and pigs and things of this nature that are eaten. The vast majority of the crops go to actually feeding animals that will be eaten. And 90% of the calories are destroyed. Huge amounts of water is wasted, and huge amounts of protein is wasted in order to feed those animals to get the amount of protein from the meat that comes from the animals. It is absolutely a wasteful, horrific thing occurring every single day just so people can have flesh in their mouth, eat another animal's flesh. And it's horrific. The harm done because you eat meat to this environment, to the planet itself, is dramatic. People talk about cars and buses and planes and all the pollution and everything, but there's considerably more pollution than all the cars, planes, trains, everything combined, simply from the animal, livestock, agriculture business. Far more pollution from that. Now people will argue, well, if we stopped eating meat, then there'd just be cows everywhere and there'd be no end to them. It didn't happen before. They were on this planet before. It never happened before. Nature takes care of that. But what happened was, when man started farming them and raising them to eat for meat, the population just exploded. But in nature, left to themselves, it doesn't happen. Everything evens out. I know this video may be a little hard for some people, especially when you've seen veganism as a religious system that many people have. They don't believe the Bible. Many of them are atheists. They have this animal-based religious system, basically, where they worship animals. I'm not telling you anything like that. I'm telling you to serve God, and I'm telling you to live to His ideal, live to the perfection of His creation, live to where the future will be. and to where the origination of the creation was. Live the best you can possibly live in this life and do the least amount of harm. Why should you contribute any harm to this planet and to the people on this planet and to the animals on this planet? Why shouldn't you show mercy instead of sacrifice? My friends, I pray that you'll really consider this. Please feel free to contact me, leave a comment. I really would like to help people with this and talk with you. I know there are many objections. I had them all myself originally, and I had to come to a point of, am I going to live the best life I possibly can, do the least amount of harm I possibly can, and have the best contribution that I could possibly have to this planet and to the humanity and to the creation in general. I'm not talking about getting rid of humans for animals or anything like that, but just doing the best you possibly can, doing no harm, not hurting, being compassionate, merciful, and not having cruelty and inhumanity, deviation to be what causes you to continue eating the flesh of other animals. I hope you'll really consider this and really pray and think about how you're living your life. What is it saying about you? What is it saying about your spirituality, about who you really are as a person? And really consider what you do with your diet and your contribution to this planet. My friends, I pray it's been a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.